Oh my God, friend.
Friend, amigo.
We've arrived.
Yes, we have.
After all the OCD setup.
Mm-hmm. It was an OCD morning.
Let's meditate.
Okay.
Coming into the present moment. Allowing anything that was just happening to release from our minds. Breathing in fully and settling into the present moment. Nothing to think about. Just coming into the body. Knowing and trusting that we have everything we need here right now. Releasing all expectations or need for control. Just surrendering and trusting now. Noticing any tension. Moving that energy to relax it. Maybe placing your palms downward to ground more. Or if you're feeling more in a receptive mode, maybe having your palms towards the sky, whatever feels natural. Allowing any thoughts to just pass by as if they were clouds moving across the sky. Releasing all attachments to outcomes or worry of how will be perceived. Trusting that we'll say and do exactly what is meant to be. Falling into that flow with the universe. Feeling more settled, coming back into the room, in this place and time that we exist together in. Preparing to share energy and thoughts and ideas. Thanks for being here, Tyler.
Thanks for having me. That was necessary.
So necessary. Yeah. I went like a little longer than I normally would have because I was feeling the vibes.
Oh yeah. Well, I was in Ubers all day.
Uber.
So that was necessary for sure. Oh, this feels good. I'm ready.
Are you the kind of person, like, when you're in Ubers and in outside places, where, like, other people's energies, like, affect you?
Yeah.
And you have to, like, detox after? Or, like, sometimes you don't even notice that affected you until after, when you feel, like, drained and shit?
Most of the time, their energy is, at least here, I've had pretty good Uber drivers.
Yeah?
Like very positive, yeah.
Like talking to them, chill?
Yeah, like I'd say 3 out of the 4 Uber drivers that I've had have been talkative and, oh, so where are you from? You know, like friendly. Everybody's like, so you're from Long Island? I'm like, no, that's New York. Rhode Island. Like, you'd be surprised how many people don't know of Rhode Island. You know, we're just a small state.
You were mentioning being here and how LA people are kind of fake.
Mm-hmm. From my perspective.
Comparatively to the East Coast vibe.
Well, I don't know if it's just because of where I grew up, but like if somebody's got a problem with you, you know.
Right.
It's like,
they say it to your face.
yeah, it's like, what are you doing, dude? Like, why are you, can I swear on this show?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
It's like, why are you being a dick? Like, what's your issue? Is dick a swear? It's a name.
I don't know.
Richard.
It's a phallic object.
No, I don't know. It's just, that's how people are back home.
Mm.
You know, it's like if you got a problem with somebody, they tell you, and I'm the same way. So it's, everybody here, I feel like it's, you know, I'm gonna take a picture of my pizza and
Yeah.
it's like
very fake.
I just want to eat.
There was something I heard about like comparing East Coast and West Coast peeps.
Yeah.
And it was like in LA when you get a flat tire, everybody's like, oh no, I'm so sorry you got a flat tire. That sucks. But they don't help you.
Yeah.
But then on the East Coast, it's like, you fucking idiot. How could you not like keep your shit up? But then they're like down on the ground, like fixing it for you.
Yeah. That you sent that to me, I think.
Yes. It was a meme or something, or like on a podcast.
It was probably TikTok or.
I feel like that holds true from what I've
so
experienced.
True. Yeah. Because people, I don't know, it's just, I don't know why it's like that. But you'll get some judgment, but you'll be helped for sure.
Yeah.
You know, but.
What about in the industry, like in the entertainment music industry? Do you find that there's a similar thing where like people are a little more blunt, but like they're more willing to help you on projects and stuff? Because here in LA, no one gives a shit. Unless you pay in premium price,
Yeah.
it's hard to get services and collaborations done here.
Well, I was lucky enough to have a mentor when I was younger who lived in Mass. I won't say his name, but he lived in Massachusetts, and he's like, I don't want to move to the West Coast. Like, this is my home. And he managed to do really well in the industry despite his location. Mm. And the first time I met him, he was like, your bridges suck. Like, you need to vamp up your bridges. Like, you got good hooks. Mm. And, like, your production's really good, but you suck.
Do I know
at
this
writing
person?
Bridges. No. But he knows this person for sure. Uh-huh. And so we didn't pay him a penny. He was just like, I believe in what you're doing. I believe in the songs I've heard from you.
Did he do actual shit or just give you feedback?
No, he pitched some stuff. Yeah,
okay.
He believed in what we were doing. Mm-hmm. And at the time, my brother and I learned a lot from him. He was very straightforward, very blunt, but he never asked us for a penny.
Hmm. You know, I had a mentor like that too, actually.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword because you don't want to hear the crap about yourself, but also you need to.
Yeah, especially when you're younger and still developing.
Yeah, I was like 22.
You need someone to slap you around a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, humble you.
Yeah.
Because when you're young, you think you're the hot shit.
Of course.
You're the hottest shit.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I got 10,000 subscribers.
I feel like all artists are like that.
Yeah. I do believe that all artists are egocentric. Mm-hmm. But I think that there's better art to be made when you let go of a lot of that.
It's interesting. That's an interesting connection because I wonder if the more I've let my ego go, it's been the same trajectory, like parallel, where it's like the less ego I have, the better I've gotten. Mm-hmm. But maybe that is just a coincidence that over time I just got better, and also over time you get burned more, you get hit more, you work super fucking hard, and maybe the ego just starts to diminish. Mm-hmm. There's like less attachment to becoming famous and like having this identity as an artist because it's just time has passed. But I wonder if there could be a correlation too, where it's like through time, the more you like let your ego go, the more you can actually rise up to be your greatest version as an artist.
I grew up, I was around producers and people who became producers because it didn't work out as an artist, and they were very cold and just they didn't care about the project that was being worked on. It was like, I just want to get paid and move on. You know, so I think the ego can deter you in a way that you're not even realizing you're hating what you're doing. Or you can step into it and say, like you said, like it's less about the fame, it's less about me, and it's about we're still creating something. I'm like, we're 29, you know, and we're still young as fuck, right? According to the industry, we're old.
For artists, not for producers, though.
For producers, we're very young.
Yeah.
For artists, it's old.
Yeah.
But I also think we're leaning into an age, especially with TikTok, where older artists are doing really well. Older artists are finding their platform, and they're out there saying, you can be 35 and have an album come out and people listen to it and care about it.
Who? Do you have any examples?
Well, not people who are like massively famous, but if you want to look at the traditional sense, like Rachel Platten was a producer and songwriter, and I don't think she came out with
Fight
Song until she was 31 or maybe 32. Like she was kind of in our era, right? But I have friends who are 35 putting out a record, and they're building like 2,000, 3,000 followers on TikTok slowly, but they have people listening. And I think it depends on what you call success, but if you're an artist and you want people listening.
What do you think the goal of success should be?
Do I think the goal for us should be as an artist?
Yeah, what do you think the goal is? Is it as many followers and views as possible, or is it kind of more that tried and true 1,000 true fans model?
For me, I think it's different for everybody, but I think if you're looking for sustainable contentment, you should go for the 1,000 true fans.
Yeah.
You know, if you're looking for numbers, Ryan, my brother, he just told me, we walked past this place, and I think it was the Whiskey, and he's like, oh, Aaron Carter played there, like that was his last show before he died, and there was like 30 or something fans there. Like, could you imagine being one of the biggest like pop stars for your time as a kid, and then
having only 35 fans show up at a show,
right?
Your last show, no less.
Right, but if you measure that as success, then you're going to at some point, I think, have to look at yourself and say, okay, like who am I without the success, and what is my music without everybody clamoring for me whenever I go outside, or everybody listening to my music all over the world? Like, what is my music without that? And if you don't know what that answer is, that might set you on a journey to figure out something that's a little bit more sustainable for you to create.
Because I've noticed even when people do hit those numbers, they realize that nothing's changed.
Right.
Like internally, you know. Like you can have all of the external success that you could have ever dreamed of. And if you still feel that disconnect of why you're doing this, and a discontentment of the art itself even, you know, that maybe it isn't truly what you wanted to do, you just were trying to get the numbers, and okay, best case scenario, you do get the numbers. But even when you do acquire that success, what's our true goal? Are we just looking to be loved? Are we looking to be seen? Are we looking to be validated? Because those numbers don't actually do that. It looks like they do. But it's not. We're still looking for our dad to recognize us, or our mom to love us and be compassionate towards our needs. Like, it kind of is those old wounds really wanting to be filled, isn't it?
I personally believe that. Like, I personally believe that for myself. Like, before I wanted to be an artist, like 8, 9, 10 years old, I wanted to be a famous soccer star and then a famous football player. Like, I was always famous.
Me too.
Right. So you understand that.
I don't care how.
Right.
I just want to be famous.
Exactly. You just
I feel like that's very
seen.
like millennial generation of us.
Yeah. You want to be seen. And I grew up in a loving family. Like, my parents loved me. Like, they couldn't have loved me more, you know, and they did everything around for my brother and I. They did everything, you know, for the betterment of my brother and I. I think a lot of it also is the way that we come up and go to school and,
society in
other
general.
people's. Oh yeah. I think a lot of it is love me, don't judge me. You know, like I was bullied. I was the kid with the khakis and like the Red Sox lunchbox every day, and I was the only person going to wash their hands in the bathroom before lunch. Like everybody knew my MO, and I think because nobody else was doing that.
OCD shit.
Oh yeah. Like I think for me now, looking back, if I look at my like 10-year-old self, there's so much OCD and so much anxiety and so much like so much fear of the world and people around me that it was like I just want, like, you almost think that being famous is going to make you invincible and you're going to be seen, you're going to be loved, and nobody can touch you.
And like those things would all of a sudden be like
relieved, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's where it stems from. For me, I can only speak for me.
No, I had the same experience. I had the same experience. Yeah. But does it fix it?
No, I don't think it does.
We don't know because neither of us are hella famous.
No.
But now do you feel fulfilled? How did you end up fulfilling that within yourself regardless?
I can tell you that when I had 1,000 subscribers on YouTube with my brother, I was like, oh, what if we got 10,000? I got really excited about it. And you hit 10,000, it's like, I want to hit 50,000. You hit 50,000. I want to hit 100,000. We hit 100,000. Once we hit 150,000, we got the plaque, the whole like YouTube plaque. Once we hit 150,000, we stopped playing together. And I remember asking myself, like, why was I like more happy at 10,000 than I am at 150?
So it's never enough.
Never enough. It's like, when is it enough? So that to me was kind of like a measurement where I was like, okay, like if I'm always looking towards the next goal, when am I ever going to be like, when am I going to feel like I've arrived?
Yeah.
You know? But I just don't think that I ever really truly had a vision of like, this is when you make it. I think I was always looking to the next thing. Yeah.
Have you ever satiated that hunger? Have you ever found peace within yourself with it? Knowing that it's never enough?
Yeah, I think the only way for me to find a healthy way of like feeding myself is by making a song I'm happy with. Because like once I'm done with the song and it's mastered, I'm like that's it's a fleeting feeling, but it's such a like, oh, this is good. Like I'm so like proud of this here, whether like one person hears it or 200,000 people hear it, like whatever the situation is, like that's good. This is what the made it is now. Yeah.
I feel the exact same way. In fact, I was on the A Break interview, and they asked me like, what is your like, I don't know if it was definition of success, but just like, what makes you feel like you made it, like you feel successful? And my answer was the same thing, like being able to have a song that I just did. I was in the lab, I did everything myself, and then I put my beats on and I go take a walk around the block and I get to hear, oh fuck, I just made that. And be proud in that feeling of like making something out of nothing, but also something of a higher level of excellence than I've done ever before. Like always getting, to me, that's now like the high, the addiction. That's the next thing. Right. And it's not from a place of, oh, it's never enough, because here's the difference. This is the key. That is within our control. Exactly. We have control of how that next, by incrementally pushing ourselves and getting better and making that next best thing. With numbers, it's totally out of our control. It's the external world. That is what you have to be detached from. So when you find that trigger thing of, where am I looking to get to next? It has to be something within your control. Yeah, absolutely. That's where I think the key is of acquiring that fulfillment, because when it's outside of you, it'll be sad when you make it, rather than this uplifting, like proud that I fucking made that, I did that, you know? And for someone like you and me with like OCD, the biggest trigger for anyone with OCD is not having an answer or having no control over the situation. You know, that's why you act out your compulsion. You have these compulsions and your rituals that you
act out and stuff, like that's giving you your control. It's kind of the same thing where you finish a record, that's your form of control, like you said, where you can control when the record's done. You don't have a fan at the bottom of your driveway being like, it's done. It's you. You know what I mean? Like that's
You're
it.
the fan being like, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Your inner self is the fan. That's like that's good. I just gave a thumbs up to the camera. That's good.
I think that's such a crucial thing, and on my journey has really helped with my fulfillment is becoming a producer myself. I've had a lot of really bad experiences with producers, either flaking or charging an arm and a leg, or honestly in personal ways getting weird as well as a woman in the studio. And I've had some like breaking points where it's like, I never want to have to rely on someone outside of myself again. And then the pandemic happened, things shut down, and I had the time, and I buckled down and self-taught myself how to really get my records from just being a producer of demos to a producer that can finish to the master. And since I did that, it's been so liberating. And there's so many artists out there that I see around our age or younger that are trying to get started with that process but don't know how to take it all the way. And I think that learning how to do that has given me the most peace. And I wonder what your advice would be as both of us, you know, learning how to do this shit and just making it happen as we go, how artists can take that step to create final products on their own and gain that control. I know it's a slightly technical question, but I know there's artists out there that want that so badly.
Plenty.
Yeah.
I was one of them.
Me too.
Two things I think are necessary to doing that. One is obsession. I think you need to be obsessed with the art of creating. Because if I wasn't obsessed, I wouldn't have been hungry to be good. I wouldn't have wanted to be there for 6 hours making something and then knowing that it sounds like shit at the end of the day. Like, there's got to be some sort of obsession there to know that you suck, but you still want to keep making stuff. That's one. Two is letting go of the timeline of when you need to
That's a big one.
have stuff out or be as good as you want to be good. If like, I told this to somebody the other day on a call, if I went up to my like 10-year-old self who was like just starting out almost 20 years ago, wow, holy shit. I know, it's like weird to say that, but I had to go back to my 10-year-old self and be like, dude, like, you really won't have your feet like in the door doing really well with a lot of different types of people making records that sound like they're on the radio. You won't have that for another 15 years. I don't know how I would have like gone from hearing that to starting.
Honestly, can I be honest? If I was hearing my older self tell my 10-year-old self that and I was 10, I would have made a sigh of relief.
Really?
Yes, because it was the not knowing when it was going to happen that caused the most anxiety for me. And then also on top of that, the expectation that, oh, by 18, I need to have this amount of success. By 21, I need to have this amount of success. By 25, I need to have this amount of success. And never hitting it. It's just you're constantly on the edge of your seat not knowing when is this shit going to fucking happen.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting, but that was the root of my anxiety, was never knowing, and then also having these expectations that, oh, it should have happened yesterday. So honestly, hearing my older self saying that, I would, okay, all right, cool, we're in this, we're fucking in this, let's go.
And also knowing like, yeah, it's actually a really good point, because you're like, oh, so, you know, I hit something. Like, you're right, you don't know if you're going to do anything.
Yeah.
Because the music business is so quick and changing and is so on this zero certainty, like 90% of the time. And even when you're like Taylor Swift, nobody knows how long that's going to, I mean, I think she's fine, but I'm saying like, I'm sure she thinks differently. I'm sure she thinks, okay, is the next record going to be the one that sells the least or people dislike? Or is, you know, I'm sure she has thoughts that run in her mind as an artist. But if I was in her position, that's what I would be thinking. Like, how long is this going to last?
And to that, what's the pivot? Because there always needs to be a pivot. And from what I've heard of Taylor Swift specifically, it's like this next album's totally different. Like she, in her mind, it's a risk. And not always, I mean, maybe it's a calculated risk. Maybe, you know, there is a shock factor element to putting something out that is nothing like before. That can create some controversy and clout. But like, I know that for me as an artist, when I've made pivots, it's very unsettling.
Yeah.
Like you kind of don't want to do it because you're like, shit, this works. Like maybe I should just keep, like, why can't I stay consistent? Like you guilt yourself. Like, why can't I just do that one thing? But I think that allowing those pivots and surrendering to the changes actually is a strength, and why I think Taylor has done so well and has created longevity for herself.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And now, I want to ask you, do you have like a light bulb moment that changes from uncertainty to putting something out, or is it a process?
I mean, trust the process, right? I
Yeah,
have my
exactly.
sign to remind me.
Yeah.
I think the light bulb moments for me for like a track being done is when the mix and master is perfect and I start forgetting about any changes that need to be made. Like there's nothing else that I need to change in order to lose myself in the song. And I start getting music video ideas.
Hell yeah.
It's when I start getting the music video ideas that I'm like, okay, it's ready.
So it's switching focus.
Switching focus, yes. It's like, okay, I don't need to work on the music anymore. It's time to tell the visual story.
Right. So that is literally a pivot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to go back to artists wanting to become producers, because that is such a big freeing moment for me that also took a lot of like uncertainty out of my career. If I were to give 2 tips on that, the first thing would be in those uncomfortable stages where you're not quite leveled up in a certain area, to finish the shitty song anyways.
Yes.
That's how I made my entire last album, was pushing through those uncomfortable moments of, fuck, this sucks. Like, I really should just throw this in the trash right now. I'm getting up. I'm frustrated. I don't like this. I hate this song. But then moving forward with it anyways, because in my mind, I was like, you know what? It's better to have a finished shit song than a half-done shit song. And when I did that, that really pushed me to not only problem solve and fill my gaps to finish things, you also have to realize that perspective is so key.
Yes.
Because what's a shit song today is a song you're like, wait a second, this actually got legs. And then you go back and maybe make some changes, but it's not as shitty as you think it is in the moment.
Right.
So perspective is key, and allowing yourself to have that time and to do the follow through. I would say in that regard as well, with follow through, I don't save a song until I have a title, which means when I'm producing, because I write and produce simultaneously usually, my computer will back it up anyways. If something were to crash or the power to go out, it'll say, do you want to reload? It auto saves it in the background, but I can't Command S until I have a title, which means I have to at least write through the first chorus.
Yes.
And that pushes me to have that follow through. As you get going as a producer, I have found that to really help me get past that those uncomfortable stages as, oh, this sucks.
Yes.
And then just having a bunch of starts of songs, which is so frustrating. Because I noticed for me, I can't ever really get back on that original wave. I kind of have to follow through and follow that wave until, even if I have to push myself and get tired and, you know, skip dinner and all that shit, it's better to push through, because getting on that energy wave of creatively with that specific song and that energy is so hard for me.
Yes.
Do you find it hard to go back to starts of songs?
100%.
It's too hard, right?
The way I look at it, there's like a really cool analogy that just came passing through is when you have like an idea for a song and you first sit down and you're putting some stuff together. It's like we all have these trains that pass through our minds or like our consciousness, and then we decide to hop on them, you know, and then, you know, we get off at a different point when the song sounds at least somewhere that you envisioned or wanted to go. Or you could have a train pass your consciousness, you look in and you decide, I'm not going to take this train right now. And you sit and you wait for it to come back. And then it comes back, but it looks different because people have been on it. People have, changed the seating arrangement or have a magazine it's not going to be the same exact train that you saw, 8 hours ago. It's going to be a different train. I feel like that about songs and ideas, and that's the best way that I can explain, ideas is like hop on when you kind of know where you want to go, or the train presents itself, hop on and see where it goes. Because if you wait to come back to that idea a different time, it might not feel the same. It might not be the same.
It's basically having to start over.
Yeah.
Like I've noticed when I try to hop back on the train after it's come around again, I may as well just write a new song.
Right. And that's why a lot of artists do.
Yeah.
Like, I have a cousin who's brilliant. He's so brilliant, and he's a talented singer, songwriter, producer, and he doesn't consider himself a mix engineer, but he could still mix a good record. And like he has he's probably got thousands of songs on his drive because every time he sits down, it's new, and he doesn't go back to the old ones. And I'm always up his ass, like release this, let's go, And he has a hard time with committing to the song that he started because every time he goes back to it, it doesn't feel the same, which is something that we deal with as artists. But I think it's important to follow through up until a point that you feel you got what you need to get out. And if you need to clear your head, come back later,
Walks are big.
Yeah.
I take walks between producing.
Is that something that like you feel completely resets you?
Totally.
Yeah.
Even a 10-minute walk just around the block. Unless it's allergy season, then I come back with sniffles and I don't feel like doing anything.
Am I sick or do I sneezies?
But that's a huge thing that I do hear with a lot of artists. They have just a huge archive of tons of unfinished songs. What do you think the solution is for that? Because you can just follow through and push yourself in the moment when you're on the train, but is there a place for collaboration? I mean, I know that's out of your control and, it's another variable of someone else that, sometimes it's hard to find the right person to fit that role. But what have you found works as far as getting unfinished songs done in your archive?
Thinking about other people. Yeah, because I could finish a song that could be really good for someone's film, or like I could submit it to sync and pitch it to Netflix. It wouldn't be good for a song that I would put out as an artist project, but I could go under an alias and just put the song and send it out, and it could be perfect for a film. And I could also think about my artists, because I work with a ton of artists, and I'm like, this song is probably not good for me, but it could be really good for this person.
So finding like a purpose for it.
Yeah.
Like why you would want to finish it.
Right. Oh yeah. A purpose, whether it's sync, whether it's or an artist, or if you do think like, so-and-so would sound good on this, but I this isn't my kind of vibe, but I love the song, then you can bring it to someone and say, hey, would you want to collab on this? Because this is totally your vibe.
And then maybe also in tandem, playing that mind experiment without even a literal person to work with it on. Like pulling, using a reference to be like, okay, let's pretend I'm pitching this to XYZ artist. Does that help you as well to finish songs?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think because you don't know where a song can go. Like, especially where we are, like, we could write a song and it gets picked up in 5 years from a label. Because they're like, we heard this, it sounds like this could be, we need this for our, whoever the artist is. That you just never know. Like, I still think about the songs I wrote when I was 17, 18 years old, and they're not the songs that I would write now, but they're not bad. They're just different, and why can't a song that I wrote at 18 be used in a film? Or why can't I use the song that I wrote, in college to pitch it to an artist that I admire? Why not? And if you like it, if it's good, it's just not your style, why couldn't it be repurposed, or why couldn't it be useful?
So you can open up that scope and potentially pitch to other things. But let's say you're an independent artist and you don't have these connections for like sync and working with other artists, you don't even know any other producers or whatever. When you see your archive of songs and want to be self-sufficient with it, you want to hop on that train again. Are there tricks to maybe making it come alive again?
Yeah, I have a song called Rocket Ship that I put out in 2020, I think it was. And I started like the production in 2019, and it was a totally different song. Like something that it was inspired by like something Post Malone that I was listening to. And when I opened it up again, I was listening to the 1975 and other types of artists that I wasn't listening to when I started it. So I kept the same song, same lyrics, melody, everything, but totally changed the production on it. And then I ended up releasing the song. It had some retro influences. It had some, original influence in there, but it wouldn't have been the song that it ended up being if I didn't pull from my current inspirations. So I think it doesn't have to look the same as when you started the song. You can completely revamp the song if you want,
I find it sticky though.
Do you?
Yeah, because like my head is stuck with how it used to sound. And
Demo love?
a little bit,
Yeah.
demoitis vibes, because I have a song called Tiny Windows, and it's got kind of like a Billie Eilish Everything I Ever Wanted vibe. And every time I go to work on it, I work on it for a couple hours and I can't move the needle. It still is just sitting and resting. It's stuck in how the demo is. And I started sidechaining the synths. I added some harmonies. I started rearranging it. And it's still stuck in the old energy. It's not sounding different enough to where I'm like excited in a new way about finishing it.
Okay.
I feel stuck.
So what if you stuck to the original energy and stayed in that realm?
I mean, it's obviously wanting to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is like you make the switch, you try out these different sounds, these different connections, doesn't work, you go back to the original idea. What if, and sometimes it's simple, like I'll have a song
Sometimes
where I'm
less
just
is
like,
more than.
yeah, I'll be like, this is not hitting, and then I'll just like put like a quarter note hi-hat or something, and it'll totally change it for me.
I'm probably overthinking it.
Probably. That's what we do though.
That's what we do.
Like how can you get to the end of a song without overthinking it, unless it's something that just comes through and you just follow it and it's like one of those magical moments
I love
happen. But like how else can you finish without trying everything? And you're like, I have a harder time finishing a song if I haven't done it upside down a million times than I do when I'm like, sometimes when I do it and it just like falls into place and it's great, I get like, okay, like, is this the best that it could be? Or am I being lazy? Or
it was probably just magic, Tyler.
Yeah, or is it is it like a fairy that just came through? Like,
that's how I feel. It's either like fairy land and it just like magically appears and I like black out and then I wake up and I have a song, or it's pulling fucking teeth.
Yes.
How can we get out of that pulling fucking teeth energy? Do you just have to give up on the song?
No, I think what you said earlier is just continue to follow through until you get to a place where you're like, this is good. Like, it sucks, it's brutal.
But then also that perspective too, like taking time away and then listening back. Because I really do think your less is more advice is what I need, specifically for the song I feel stuck on. I think my ego is getting in the way, saying that it needs to be more than what it is. It's too simple. Like, I need to make it more polished. It needs bells and whistles. I think that's what's really holding me back with that. Like, maybe, because for me, what I see the future of music is currently is raw and real.
I agree. We're making that circle back.
Which is good, but I need to get my identity out of the way of, oh, I'm the producer that makes it sound so fucking polished and pop and like, all the layers and, because I've recently kind of transitioned more into electronic, and that is everything in the kitchen sink, production wise. It's very production heavy, very highly edited.
It's a very specific genre.
It is.
Yeah.
But then I have a song like Tiny Windows, and it's like my brain has been in. It's almost like I feel like it's not enough, just being simple.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because, this isn't going to pass. This is going to sound like a demo to the people who end up hearing it. Because they're so used to hearing polished stuff. But I have artists coming to me now that want it to sound raw and grungy and make it sound like it's in GarageBand.
Do you have any production tips for making simple tracks sound polished, but yet still raw and simple?
I think get really good at cutting up and editing your vocals.
Mm.
I think your vocal is the focal, at least for like in art, contemporary. I think pop is going more raw, but I think the thing that's going to make pop still be pop is polished vocals.
Mm.
If you have a good vocal, everything else can be dealt with, I think.
And when you say vocal, do you also mean stacks of harmonies and doubles and...
You can get away with a lot of crap and harmonies and background vocals, but I'm more talking about the lead vocal because that is the nucleus, of the song. That's, to me, when I listen to a song, if the vocal sounds you could have a vocal that sounds like it's like Justin Bieber 2019, like really bright, polished, tight. It sounds amazing. And you could have a production that sounds like it's loose, acoustic, and like a double time, like snare drum, something really just that wouldn't be Justin Bieber pop, and it would still sound like a good song.
I would love to know your chain on that.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because to glue those together and make it sound like a cohesive piece, I think would be the challenge for me in my mind. And that's why I'm struggling with this one, is like, it's a weird side-chained pad. That's kind of, I don't want to say tinny, but it's very mid-heavy.
Yes.
Just peaks only in one spot. And then my vocals over top of it, just like making it feel full and big still.
Some weight, usually in the low end.
Yeah.
It depends on the vocal. You see a lot of these producers and engineers are like, this is how to make your vocal sound great. And it's like, every vocal's different. Like if I was to work on your vocal or work on a vocal like my brother's, two totally different vocals. So you can try to use the same chain, but you're going to be using different settings. You're going to be EQing the vocal differently. Like there's certain chains that I use for certain genres. There's certain ways that I mix for certain, vibes, right? And, there's so many different ways there's no one right way to mix a vocal. It all comes down to how can I make this vocal sound like really clear, really upfront, and really heavy, and still keep the rest loose and aloof. And to me, that I think is what's still going to be pop. I still think pop is going to go into that raw direction, but the vocals in pop are still going to be good quality. Listen to Harry Styles, like Harry's House, incredible record. I absolutely love it. And it absolutely is inspiring me for my new stuff. His stuff there's a lot of loose ends in the instrumentation that sounds so good. They don't sound so polished. They sound just human, right? But his lead vocal always sounds good. And I think that's a really good representation of what modern pop in the next year or two is gonna, dive into.
Speaking of humans.
Yeah.
What do you feel about AI?
Oh God.
Is AI taking our job?
I don't think so. No. If you think about the first time a motorized car came out, the guys who drove horses or rode in horses, bringing people around, were like, these things are going to take our jobs. Now we have taxi drivers, and Uber drivers. You know what I mean? Like, I think with everything, everything's, the pendulum swings back and forth, but we always eventually find a middle ground until it swings again. I think that because AI is so new, everybody's enamored by it. A lot of people are enamored by it. A lot of people are scared of it. But I think the only reason that we have gotten this far is because we are always finding our way back to being human. And like finding our place as humans here. And so that's how I feel. I think AI is a good place to get inspired. I think it's a cool place to start if you want to go and check out what kind of song, Michael Jackson would make if he sounded like, if he was writing songs that Paul McCartney was writing, like just like the master companies like Lander or like eMastered, where you can upload an unmastered track and it masters it for you. There's still a big difference between mastering on Lander and going to an actual master engineer.
Right now,
yes. And getting a good master.
Yeah.
So at least
because does it work on algorithm, the AI mastering?
Yeah, it's you just upload it. It's like detecting genre, like that kind of thing, and it just like does it for you, and then
it'll get better though.
I mean, even I run through Lander just very lightly and then send it to. So it's really good for me for time, but I would not put it through Lander and release it as a song. I just don't feel comfortable with that. I like the human element. I like the imperfections in a song. I like the way, you can listen to an intro and say, I like this, and then the outro you say, I don't like this, and have that stance. Whereas an AI doesn't have an opinion. It just goes off of the algorithm.
I'm pretty optimistic about it.
Yeah.
I think it could actually solve a lot of the problems we were talking about with our first discussion here of like finishing, getting inspired, even mixing and mastering, even just guiding our ears toward more final products. I see creating music being a much more accessible art. I know for me, there was a huge barrier to entry and learning curve doing this shit myself. I went from GarageBand to Ableton because Ableton kind of recruited me in as a beta tester very early on. And
I know that.
Yeah, in 2012 actually, 13. I know, it's been a long time. So like a decade, and they wanted me as a beta tester specifically because I was a songwriter and a performer. I needed it for live and studio. And I was currently at the time using GarageBand for both of these things. And someone who didn't already have experience in Ableton. And so they wanted to see what I needed as a user in order for it to be intuitive.
Wow.
And so I've been on this journey with them from zero. And even with guidance and help from them, my progress just came to a complete halt when it came to getting what I was making to go from demo to final product. I just thought, I'm only a demo producer. I can never get it to where these other producers get it. I'm never going to be happy with the final products that I make. And I think that with AI and how things are advancing, there's going to be a lot more artists. There's going to be a lot less crazy learning curve as far as like getting into it, because some things will be done for you.
Of course.
Not necessarily super easy right away, but like easier. Because the detail and the amount of I heard once from a producer. I was in a writing session with a Sony producer one time, and I was like, wow, you're so good. Like, how do you get good like this? And this was like 19-year-old me, just got to LA, like in a writing session. Like, I don't even know how I got here. Like, this is crazy. And just totally enamored. And he was like, it's nothing crazy. It's just a lot of little tricks.
Yes.
You just learn little things over time. And then before you know it, you have so much to pull from that you can actually start making stuff that sounds good.
No, absolutely.
And maybe some of those detailed things that you have to learn just over a decade will be able to be filled in a little bit with artificial intelligence.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Do you think it's good to have more artists in the world? Or is it going to now be harder for us who have been like in this forever to be heard because everybody and their mother is making music?
I think it depends on how you look at it. I think as an art form, I think everybody should create. I think everybody should have an outlet to create. I think the world would be a better place if everybody was creating something. especially music, because it's so therapeutic. From a business perspective and a career perspective.
Don't fucking do it.
Yeah.
This is our world.
I think it's, yeah, no, Jesus.
Because it's already so hard to be heard as it is.
It is. It is.
When the laptop producer thing bursted out in like 2010, you know, it just became so much harder, saturated industry.
Well, you go on Instagram or TikTok and you see in someone's bio, producer, songwriter, mix engineer, and it's like, how long have you been doing it? Oh, I just started like 6 months ago. And it's like, okay. Like, you don't go into a hospital and say you're a doctor because you've been studying for 6 months. Like, you actually have to go through the motions, and you have to know what you're doing when you go in to see a patient who's sick. You know, I think it's the same. I think there's a certain tier, and I think, how do you judge that tier? I think if you can call yourself a producer, is if somebody who comes from, you know, like you, somebody wants like a commercial done, right? You can write a commercial and produce a commercial. But if somebody wants like a drop EDM kind of song, you can put that together. Like, if you can take what somebody else wants, not just one person, like multiple outlets, and you can deliver to them what they want, then you can call yourself a producer. But if you've been just looking on YouTube for 6 months and you just started, you're learning about producing. You know, you're not working as a producer yet. You're not getting paid, and somebody's vision is on the line. You know, you're like, I never considered myself a producer or a singer, or like, I just never thought I was good until people like everywhere wanted to start working with me.
I think that's good. You're not attached to your identity.
No.
I will push back a little bit on that and say, I bet there are some artists out there that figured out how to produce their own style of music really well. And no, they maybe couldn't produce a commercial for Barbie or Fruity Pebbles or something like, you know, you or I could from a brief. But they're really good. Like, I'm sure Phineas can do anything, but let's just say, for example, him and his sister, they're bedroom producers, and they got really good at that specific genre that like Billy has now become notorious for. I would still consider that a producer. I wouldn't say you're a commercial producer that can produce for any artist, for sync and all that, but I would still say that maybe you're an artist producer.
I think that's perfect.
And fuck the labels, like, I don't really care, but I mean, to your point, there is a difference in caliber and arena. You know, there's many different kinds of producers. Absolutely. There's some people that can only produce commercial jingles, but they could never write Taylor Swift something, you know, or a Billie Eilish, whatever, or an EDM something. It's the thing with art, it's very subjective. And what is good is also very subjective. And as I'm seeing the trends shift with social media since TikTok, where like distorted clipping tracks are actually cool and trendy now, and that is perceived as good, when my ear goes, that's wrong and bad. I don't care how distorted. Yeah, I don't care how cool the song is. That's fucking clipping. There's such a gray area now. And even my ear is starting to get trained to that, where I'll hear like an amateur artist put out a song and I'm like, is this genius or amateur? Like, I kind of can't tell.
The lines are blurred.
Yeah.
It's funny that you said that, because I think TikTok has a big to do with that. Because there's so many people who put out stuff on TikTok that had no quality merit, but the songs were great.
I mean, I even see those people, they're like duetting, you know, like where someone's like, duet this, and they're like, they sing the lead, this is the lead, and then da-da-da-da-da, and then the other person's like, da-da-da-da, they do the harmony third above it, and they've got their little iPhone headphone thing, and they're holding the mic like here, and it's distorted, and the syllabants and all that's happening.
And it blows up.
And then blows up.
Yeah. Because the song sounds good. Doesn't mean the quality's good.
Does quality matter now, then?
I think that depends. You know, if you want to be here in Hollywood making a Jurassic World movie, absolutely. If you want to be on TikTok and everybody shares your video, doesn't matter. You know, but I also think it's going to matter. I think people are going to start wanting to take it more seriously and go back to quality content, because for me, when I first started TikTok, I can only tell you my experience. I liked raw content. I was always scrolling. It was like a drug, right? Now, the stuff that I spend most time on is really good quality. I'll spend time on a 1.5-minute video of somebody who's got a really nice camera and has a nice microphone setup, and they're talking about the music business. I'll spend the 1.5 to 3 minutes to listen to them.
Because it's more soothing, enjoyable for your ear, or
Because
the content itself?
I think, one, the content catching my attention. It looks good. It's not like some guy who's walking through a, forest talking about the music business. If that's what you do, that's fine. But I think quality, at least with visual content, is going to come back.
I think audio too, and I think podcasts have shifted that because we're used to listening to better quality audio in our ears now.
yeah.
Speaking of, I just read a whole article in the statistics of what's happening with social media right now. It's kind of fucking fascinating.
Is it?
We're going long form.
Like long videos,
So last month, TikTok changed their ability to now we can post up to 10 minutes. And YouTube just invested a ton of money, like $1 billion or some shit, into podcasts. So they're competing with Spotify.
Wow.
Also, another statistic that is going to go along with my theory here is Instagram just discontinued their creators paid program.
That's right.
So you are no longer allowed to make money from Reels unless you hit like a certain benchmark or something. But that means basically for all of us, we now can't get our little $150 here and there from Meta.
That's what I was using to pay electric.
Same. Fucking same. And so those 3 pieces of information tell me that we're moving long form. And I think, there's another piece. Companies are losing money.
Yeah.
Because even though people are on the apps longer, they're engaged with specific content less because it's shorter.
Right.
And content that's longer makes more because, like with YouTube, there's more ads that you can put on longer videos. And so long form content actually makes more money. Feed content makes more money because there's more ads per thing. So shorts and reels aren't making money anymore. So it's not working out for anybody. We're all addicted to it, but it's in the end not good. So I think we're moving more long form, and I think platforms like Instagram and TikTok are going to be integrating shortcuts to be able to access longer content from short content. So like, let's say a clip from this podcast, What's Up Instagram, they'll add a feature where like you can swipe right to then go to the full podcast.
Oh.
That's what I think they're moving
That's
towards.
cool.
So long form content is the shit. So if you're making music videos, I say go do the whole fucking thing. Make it like a short film and put your little 60-second clip on Instagram, and then knowing, this is my prediction. I don't know if this is going to happen, but I have a feeling they're moving that way because shorts aren't making money, where you're going to be able to just slide to the right, and then you're going to be able to see the full music video and engage with it right there within Instagram or TikTok. Not have to go to YouTube, which YouTube, I don't know if they're going to be that happy about that.
I was going to say, we're going to have a bunch of YouTubes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we have a bunch of TikToks right now, so it'd be nice if we had a bunch of YouTubes comparatively.
You're right. I mean, it's kind of bizarre because I feel like we need a bigger attention span.
I think so too.
I like the whole like thing. Once Vine came out, everybody was like, "Oh, everybody's got short attention span, 6-second videos, blah blah blah."
But that's trained.
Right.
And what I noticed is when I do a death scroll, that's what I call it, I don't remember anything.
Yeah.
I retain no value. I don't even remember one thing that I just watched. I go back to my saved and I go, oh, yeah. But like, it's not.
Why do we save things? Do we ever go back?
Nope.
Yeah, it's like, I don't remember the last time I went through my favorites unless I was going to show somebody something.
I think we subconsciously know we're not remembering or retaining any of this, so we better save it if we want to remember.
It's so weird.
It is weird.
It's weird. Like, I don't ever go back to my favorites. Just once in a while, if I want to, like, I'll probably go back and show you something. Like, there's this guy, Beetlejuice is his name, and he's always like, some guy was like asking him, what are you doing? He's like, me? Just hanging around. And it was so funny. I die every time I see the trend, and I was just favoriting a bunch of them, but I haven't gone back to look at them. You know, it's just like kind of interesting that why do we Why do we bookmark and favorite? You know, and at least for me, I don't. You know, I don't go back.
Well, I think there is a subconscious fear there.
Yeah.
That we subconsciously know that we're not remembering or retaining any of what we're engaged in. And I think that is potentially, I'm just thinking of this now, is potentially putting a spotlight to a need that's not being met, which is we want value to be added to our lives. And most of this content is valueless. Like, there's a few things that'll be like, I mean, humor is valuable in a way, but also there'll be like, you know, a few things where it's like, that's an interesting, deep thought. Like, I want to save that. But it's not until that idea is integrated and we actually use it that a retention and a memory is made. If it's not usable, it can't be remembered. It won't. Our brain will dismiss it. Our brain is really efficient in that if we don't need it, if we don't need to use it, we're gonna erase it.
Yeah.
That's, I think, why we save it, is we go, oh, I want this to add value, so I want to save it. And maybe down the road I'll be able to access it again, because I know right now I'm just in zombie mode and I'm not gonna use it right now.
Interesting.
So maybe, and I think that that's important to note as an artist. Like, how are we adding value for the user to actually, our audience, to actually implement and use what we're creating for their actual lives?
Right. I feel like it is a deeper thing, because I don't think anybody really knows what we're favoriting, unless one of us, some people, I mean, tell us if we're wrong, but like, some people may just scroll through their favorites like every night before bed. I don't know, but like maybe
we doubt that.
You know, maybe that is a subconscious thing where it's like, this seems like it could add value to my life, or it made me laugh hysterically, so it has value, so I'm gonna favorite it. You know, maybe it is something like that. But you're right. Like, I just know that, like, when I'm on my deathbed and I have my flashback, I don't want to see a shit ton of scrolling, but I will. You relive every moment of your life and you're just scrolling.
That actually makes me very sad.
40% of it. You know what I mean? Well, if you think about it, if you do believe in, like, you know, a life review or something of some sort, you know, like, what are you going to watch? You know, it's going to be a lot of pooping, a lot of scrolling.
A lot of sleeping.
A third
of our life is spent sleeping.
Yeah.
And now the other third is scrolling. Sleeping and scrolling.
Yeah.
So the other third is maybe valuable. Was maybe cool. That is fucking terrifying. You say that so chipperly.
I don't know if it scares me, because I feel like I still have time. You know, I feel like I still can continue to enjoy my life, you know, but no, I don't want to be scrolling for the rest of it.
I have a theory about social media and where it's going. Again, I could be wrong. I have all these theories, but we're potentially moving into a physical era where we're going to actually value physical content more than digital.
What is physical content?
CDs, merchandise,
Okay.
a product, food, clothing, or even experience type stuff, you know, like going to an event, which I'm not always like super excited about doing, but
Definitely.
I just think that we're so touch deprived. We're so love people deprived since the pandemic. I think there's going to be a huge need for things that we can hold in our hands, see with our eyes, and experience and implement into our daily lives. I don't know exactly how that would translate for someone like you and me that does music, which is an audible thing that can be digital. All I know is people don't want to pay for their content.
So
they
true.
want their digital media, what they consume, to be free.
Yes.
And I think what us as artists, I just want to start mind experimenting with is how can I make that a physical good for someone to enjoy in their real life? Because I think that is what is missing right now and what I personally feel deprived from.
Sure.
Like, you know, those memories when you're a kid and you're like looking through the lyric pamphlet in an album. Like, I feel like that might come back.
That was what it was. It was records and CDs and cassettes and 8-track. Like, it was physical.
And maybe it's not that exactly, but
Right.
a new version of that I feel like is so needed right now.
I think it's scary because our laptops don't even have disc like slots anymore.
Right.
Like,
That's what I'm saying. It would probably have to be something else.
Yeah, they don't even have like USB slots. It's like the USC or whatever it is.
Okay, this is a really stupid idea, and I probably shouldn't be saying it on my podcast. I might edit it out. But I have this idea where it's like, I wish it was accessible and easy to make products yourself. Like, if I could make my own, like, Scrub Daddy, but it's like Nova Mama, and it's like a green little sponge, and on the back it has like my art and like a barcode to my song called Scrubby Dub. And like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody needs a sponge. Everybody needs, you know,
I love sponges.
everybody needs mustard. Like, why not make a Nova mustard and then have my art on it and a barcode? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I think that would be so sick.
Yeah.
But that's complicated. It's a totally different industry. It's hard to make
You're
and
mixing
manufacture
different
shit.
products.
But I think it's cool.
It is cool.
And maybe people would actually want to spend their money on something that they already need anyways and supports an artist.
I think there's something to that. This is kind of in the same realm, but it's kind of like off tangent. But even at Disneyland yesterday, I was sitting waiting for my brother and his girlfriend, and I saw this father carrying his kid. And this kid was probably like 4 or 5 years old, but he was carrying the kid in his arms and like swinging, you know, the kid around and twisting and like throwing the kid up in the air. And I was thinking to myself, I remember, you forget about little things like that. I totally remember my dad doing that to me when I was a kid, like almost like throwing me up in the air and like playing. And I would love that. I used to love that as a kid, right? And I was like, when was the last time, like there was one time where my dad did that, and it was the last time he did it to me. You know what I mean? And like, you eventually kind of fall off and forget that you used to be held and like played around and like just like joked around. And it's like, that kind of made me sad because I was like, damn, when was the last time like I felt that much joy when someone like physically, you know, besides, you know, sex. But you know what I mean? Like, not in that context. Like, not in a sexual way.
I love that we have our own cameras and we're doing like little breaking the fourth wall to create drama.
Like, yeah, definitely utilize that for sure. But like, when was the last time I felt like so much of that serotonin in a non-sexual way? You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
I ponder this and I worry about us humans with that.
Yeah.
Like that literal like physical touch to do this and to feel that, like, I don't want to say electricity because that sounds like sexual or something, but like it is this, like, there's a difference between you touching you and someone touching you.
Yeah.
And I think that comfort that comes from that, knowing that we're not alone, and that reminder of sensing someone else is the cause of so many problems and mental health stuff in the world, and the loneliness. I think someone just announced that there's a loneliness epidemic now.
Really?
Yes. Like, I don't want to say a president, someone in
the public figure.
Yeah, a ruler of a country or some shit. I don't know. Just announced that there's like a loneliness epidemic, and there's more single, unmarried, you know, they're not parents, people in the world now than ever. I hurt to the core thinking about that. And if I could just be like a little pixie angel and just fly around the world and give everybody a hug, like I would, because it really, it's disturbing that something so fundamentally needed and like that should just be a given is not there for people.
And is accessible.
Yeah, it's just not there.
Like even just, I met up with my friends the other day, and I have never met them in person before, but I've been working with my friend Sean for a couple of years, and he brought his wife, and we like immediately all hugged each other when we saw each other. And the fact that like we have to like preface like I'm a hugger. You know what I mean? Like, is that cool kind of thing?
Like, that's not weird for you, right?
Yeah, like I'm a hugger.
Like,
just
how
so
has that
you
become
know,
weird?
You know, yeah, like
so dumb.
It's just we are humans. Like it's what we do. Like we are physical beings. I think we're trying to find our way back. That does go with music. That does, you know, music has been devalued. People pay $10 a month and they can have access to any song in the world anytime they want. But as opposed to like your favorite artist just dropped a song or a new record and you got to leave your house, go to the record store, pick up the record, go home, turn on the turntable and play it. Even that's physical. It's a different world. You know, it's very much less hands-on.
And I think we need that.
Yeah.
I think we need that back in a healthy way. Because it's a paradox.
Yeah.
Because as I see it, we are spirits having physical experiences. We're having a human experience right now. But that's not what we are. We are the energy behind it. The witness seeing through the eyes. However, when you get in touch with the physical, I feel more in touch with my soul. I think that is a great mind experiment right now for content creators and artists like us that make music that are kind of not physical. How can we start fulfilling that need that is so lacking in the world for people and create an experience that brings us back into our bodies and roots us back into this experience so that we can greater connect with our higher selves? Because that is, it seems to me, how it works. Right. The more I'm in my phone and in the digital, the farther I'm away from my spirit.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people share that sentiment. You know, like I have a lot of friends who are off social media because they mentally just can't, they don't have the space for it. And when you talk about music, think about how you feel. You can still feel tremendous emotion when you're listening to music. But there's something about listening to the same song live when you go and listen to the song that you love so much live. It's like you're like so excited or connecting to it. Like I still think live music is a form of that physicalness, you know, because you're in the flesh watching someone manipulate sound
in real time in front of you.
Right.
Yeah. There's one last thing I want to talk about. I just want to talk a little bit about the mental health side of things and how I'm sure music has helped at times, but also managing your mind and your emotions and just mastering yourself, how much of an influence that has on getting better at your craft and how you personally manage your own humaning.
My humaning.
To get out of your own way and hopefully, you know, be better at your craft and not sabotage yourself.
So my relationship with my mental health and what I do.
Yeah.
So I have ADHD, OCD, depression, the whole 9 yards, all that fun stuff.
All the good shit.
Yeah. I am on medication. I'm on the lowest dose. But it's not a magical pill, you know. If without it, I probably would have a much harder time functioning. My biggest roadblock with my mental health in relationship to my career is the way my brain works with time. I always take on more than I should, which is my first issue. Sometimes my OCD brain doesn't count progress unless I've finished something. When I have too much to do, I have a hard time starting because I don't feel like I'll make a dent. So my brain's like, what's the point?
Overwhelmed.
Yeah, like extremely overwhelmed.
How do you fix that? Do lists help or?
I do have a timed schedule that I put myself, like I commit myself to, which is very hard to do.
Yeah.
Especially in something creative, because you can put 2 hours of block time to work on a certain song. It doesn't mean you're going to get anything worthwhile done.
Right.
And also, whenever I have like something to do, like if I have an appointment at 3:00 to go get my teeth done, my whole day is.
I sent you that video, right?
Yeah, you did.
It's so fucking real.
It's so true. It's like, all right, well, I can't do anything today.
I can't
It's
do
like-
it. I have to remember this thing
Yeah.
happening later.
It's
I
like,
can't do anything between now and then. Are
yes,
you crazy?
Yeah, it's like, well, why can't you get it done before?
What is the term called?
I don't know what the term is.
I'm gonna put it in the description, but it's like something like waiting, like because our ADHD brains like have to keep record of what's coming in the future. We can't think about anything else. We have this placeholder, so we're in this like waiting phase until that thing happens, and then we can relax. And because we don't have to hold that in our heads anymore.
It's like that with planning things, like
Yes.
like going to see people or having events to do. It's like I can't do anything else that day. You know, like that's like with us, like for meeting up today. Although we're like meeting up kind of like late morning, afternoon, I was like, I can't do anything Wednesday.
Right. I blocked this whole day off.
Yeah, but it's tough. It's tough to kind of push past that boundary. So sometimes I find myself in the corner, you know, when it comes to getting stuff done and doing well and sticking to a schedule. But although our brains are wired differently, it also gives us an edge to create.
Yeah, it's our superpower too.
It is a superpower.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing wrong with not having it. Of course, it's a little bit easier to navigate, I think, daily life.
The nuts and bolts and the basics of functioning like a human is
Like a
easier
human.
without this stuff.
Yes. Yeah. You sound very like New York,
New York.
you're Boston,
But then you get a little coffee, a little stimulants, and you know,
coffee or
you're good to
caffeine.
go.
Yeah, something. Yes. Yeah, you do.
I try.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. That's
The basics of functioning is harder with ADHD, but and OCD and all of that.
everything. Yeah.
But the creative side, like, what are the perks for you?
Hyper focus for sure. Like I can
Check.
do like 6 hours or 10
10.
hours of something I'm like really doing good. You know, if I find a groove, I'm locked in. Obsessing over the mix. Like if I wasn't OCD about my mixes, especially growing up, I wouldn't have been able to acquire getting the tools that I needed to do well. I would obsess over every minute aspect of a song.
And love every fucking second
Yeah,
of it.
like I wouldn't be like, of course, if you can't get the sound you're looking for, that's one thing. But if you're obsessing, like I would sometimes go between 0.1 of like a tenth of a decibel,
I do as well.
and I'd be like, that maybe I need to.
And then A-B it until you like decide,
I think that's necessary if you're going to do a good job at being a mix engineer, you know, or a producer.
Because it's a lot of little things.
Yes.
That's what adds up to the full whole being great.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's like if you can find your superpower and lean into it, then you will have a lot of wins that you'll say, okay, like I can see why I'm an artist. This works for me because my brain just works differently. And that's okay. Like I am able to create, and sometimes that's enough for me. Other times I'm like, damn, like shut up there. Time blocking has been huge for me. Where I have to see it in front of me, I have to write it out, I have to be able to check it off. And I have to be able to take breaks, especially because I always had the habit of taking on more than I should be taking on. So I have to regulate myself. If I don't, then I'll burn out. And I've burnt out plenty of times. And that's much worse than taking your time and being slow at getting something done and taking breaks and taking a day off here and there. I would much rather take that route than work 24/7, get burnt out, and then take a month off.
Because, you know, they say, like, is it neurodiverse?
Neurodivergent.
Divergent people? We're good under pressure. It's true, but it's not fun.
No.
And I would much prefer what you just said, which is take my time, take my breaks, have a day here, take a day there, you know.
Absolutely.
And that kind of goes to your first advice to artists is like taking away the timeline and taking away that pressure and let yourself really marinate and like immerse yourself in the process, because that really is the gold.
That is the goal.
The end result is exciting as well, but it's that process that, and that relationship with yourself through the process,
Right.
is more where you get that like fulfillment long term.
Yeah. But it's also like staying present in when I was producing and not trying to be like, oh, I got to get the vocals done today. Just being like, I'm just going to go in, do the best I can, get what I can get done, and like enjoy and like make these records as if they were mine. And that is something that grounds me and brings me back to, okay, why are you doing this? Because you enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Dumb idiot. You love doing this, you know? You know what I mean?
Gotta focus on the joy.
Yeah. I love making music.
Yeah.
I don't have to go and dread it.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that I've loved ever since I was a kid. Like, step into that.
And that's what it can so easily become. Like, a hustle, a career. Like, when it's one that goes from hobby to career, I feel like that's when that specific aspect gets far worse. And sure, you need to have a business mind. You need to put different hats on at different times. But, like, taking the time constraint away and really enjoying it and just making stuff to make stuff. You mentioned the time thing. That was another big light bulb moment for me as a new producer when I started. Someone said that just showing up and just sitting down, and even if you don't write one fucking thing, at least you're there, you sat there, holding that protected time and space without distraction, not on your phone, you know, airplane mode, just sitting down and creating that protected time and space. You'd be so surprised, even if the first few days, like, I would sit down at my time block and I didn't really make anything I liked, or I wasn't very productive, or I really just sat there and just was maybe listening through references or whatever, but I didn't get anything done. That third day you sit down, that time and space, something just floods in, and all of a sudden, but unless you create that protected time and space, it can't happen.
Right.
You have to hold the space for the muse or the whatever to flood through you.
And you can't wait for inspiration. There's been so many times where I'm like, oh, I'll feel inspired to work on this a different time. But sometimes when I just sit down, if I just sit down and give myself the space to do it, sometimes great stuff happens. You know?
But if you didn't show up, it would have never.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone on the phone yesterday, a friend of mine. He's like, boredom is so necessary. And it's something we don't have very much anymore because we have so much stimulus, and, you know, you get bored, you sit down. You're not even bored yet. You just open your phone. It's like a habit.
Right.
And you're instantly bombarded with stuff to consume. And I remember when I was a kid, I didn't have that. I had to entertain myself. And through boredom, we were forced to create our reality, to create entertainment for ourselves.
Yes.
And I think that is needed. And that, to me, is what sitting with a blank slate in front of you and just showing up is. It's sitting in that uncomfortable...
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah. But that's where it happens.
My therapist always says that to me. She's like, regardless of what it is, she's like, you need to be comfortable with your discomfort. You know, and I'm like, Ingrid, you're absolutely right. You know?
That's such an OG name.
I love it. She's such a sweetheart. She was like,
Aww.
You're right. Like, most of the time when I shove off working, I feel worse. And it's when I actually sit through it and I'm like, I really don't, like, I have the itch to do something else or go fold clothes or, you know, like go cook something. But that's just avoidance. You know?
Agreed.
It's really what it is.
If I had to say one of my superpowers that in everyday functional life is absolutely horrendous but amazing for being an artist, is when I sit in that space of uncomfortability, my mind is completely blank.
I love that.
I forget everything.
I love that.
And again, super impractical. But when I'm sitting down and I see those black and white keys, it's kind of like I'm seeing them for the first time. My hands remember patterns, you know, like I'm a musician. I know theory, like but it's like when I have a blank Ableton session in front of me, I'm just there.
Yeah.
And because of my ADHD and my brain can just forget, I feel like I'm better in those blank, holding space moments to create magic, because I'm not going off of the last song I wrote or the last chord progression I used or the lyrics from the old song that I'm literally just there.
Yeah.
And I have all these tools in front of me and all this subconscious experience that's back there somewhere, but not here right now.
Underneath everything. Yeah.
I can just create. I can start throwing spaghetti on the wall, start painting on the blank canvas, and there's like a newness to it every time that I feel almost like an amateur, like I've never made music in my life.
Yes.
For a moment.
It's exciting.
It is.
Yeah.
There's a newness.
You're like, what is this? But also I know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a really
We're so
important
fucked
point. That's a point that a lot of artists, they lose that. The more deeper in they go, the more like theory they know, the more they build knowledge.
Yeah.
I know I did. I lost it for quite some time. But even like I don't know if I told you, but before I came here, like the month before I came here, I was writing like constantly, and I hadn't written for like a good year, 2 years.
The shorts you were doing.
Yeah, like every day, just writing, like verses or choruses or little parts here and there that would just come, and it was like I was beginning to write all over again, and it felt so exciting. It's like, I wonder what I'm gonna write today, and I hadn't written in so long. And that's when I decided I'm going to put out more music again, because it's just there and I have to acknowledge it, because if I don't, it builds up and it goes somewhere else and you feel it,
That's a big one, because I'm ADHD. I have the hyperactivity.
Yep.
And for a very long time, I didn't know how to channel that energy. I was just a loose cannon, and from one thing to the and I channeled it into very toxic things for a while. I had eating disorders, like I would obsess and be compulsive about very unhealthy things. But the second I learned how to aim that energy in a productive way, I became unstoppable. Yeah. And now it's like, whoa, but you have to organize that. There is some mental acuity necessary in order to create strategy from what feels like a volcano just spewing out everywhere, because that's how I feel internally most days. And it's like, okay, how am I going to start aiming this at something that's actually going to benefit me in my life?
It's true. Yeah, it's hard to figure that out. With ADHD, it's like it's hard to pinpoint. It's hard to focus and take a shot.
Because what do you shoot at?
Right.
I feel we're more susceptible to being conditioned and taking in like a sponge things that are maybe other people's wants and desires and expectations for us and not our own. And so tapping into that why that you keep bringing up is so important, because if you don't know why you're aiming at what, you're just going to end up drained and bitter, because you're still not fulfilling what your soul truly wants. And that does take meditation and tapping into those deeper parts and deconditioning the wants that other people accidentally wormed into your head, and you think you want it, but it's really not you.
Right.
That shit's brutal.
You don't want to be famous. You just want to be looked at, loved, and accepted. That's what you want. It's never what the face value is. And that goes to any aspect of creation, to career, whatever it is. Like, you're looking for something. What are you looking for?
What's your why? Can I ask?
My why is definitely because I enjoy it. Like that in its simplest form. Because if it's
play for you.
Yeah, I think everything is play. But I think music especially, like I get to manipulate sound waves for a living. That's cool.
Fucking badass.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, if my why was anything else that was external, it'd be very hard for me to sustain that.
That's so beautiful. And so simple. And it makes me question my why.
What is your why?
Because mine's external.
What is it?
I mean, I enjoy it as me. Like, I have to. Otherwise, I'll die. Like, that is the severity of the situation. I have to create, or I feel hopeless, meaningless, and like I'm not myself.
Right. That's the artist's
So there's that
problem. Yeah.
But my other why that I like think about every day is I want to remember who I am to hopefully help others remember who they are.
I think that's internal and external.
It's both kind of, yeah.
At the end of the day, it comes back to remembering you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and yeah, although you can't control if other people remember themselves, we always want to affect other people, whether we know it or not. Like, when somebody listens to my song, of course I want them to like it and connect to it. I don't want somebody to hate it.
Because there's a difference, you know,
Yeah.
making it and enjoying it. If that was the real beginning to the end, if that was really the means to the end, you wouldn't need to release it.
Right, exactly.
So there is
There's so many different sides of it.
Yeah.
But I always play that game with myself. And I said, if Spotify and Apple went down, if music had no value anymore,
Which it's getting there.
right, would I still do this?
Right. And the answer is fuck yes.
Is yes.
Yeah.
Like, I love listening to my songs when they're mastered.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, that's mine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I did that.
Yeah.
So that feeling enough, and when I put it out, yeah, you promote it on social media, the whole nine yards, but I'm already excited for the next one. You know, I'm happy that it's out. I'm proud of it, but I'm already on that why again, because I want to go back and make something else.
When you release it, do you feel that instant like detachment, like baby out of the nest kind of thing?
Yes, in the way that's like, I never ever had the fear of
Releasing.
oh my god, yeah, I never ever had. I have a lot of friends who are
It's
like,
not mine anymore.
yeah, like because I know how I feel about it. I have a lot of friends who can't be on their phones when they release a song. They can't.
Whoa.
Like, they can't be alone on the day they release a song.
Whoa.
For me, and I try to understand what that is.
Interesting.
I have a hard time understanding it, because for me, I love what I did, and yes, I want you to like it, but it's not going to change how I feel about it.
Right.
You know, if you love it or if you hate it, I still am stoked. It's out. And then I'm already on to the next one, because I'm like, I want to do something else now. I want to try something else.
That's a big weakness for me, though, because I do that a little too quick, and I don't promote like I should.
Well, you can,
because I'm kind of already on to the next one.
And that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
But the way I look at it is, I'm trying to gather people to hear what I have, so they can be excited just as like I am for my next one. You know, I don't look at it as, oh, I got to promote this for the people who know me. I'm promoting for the people who don't. And then that makes me excited to put out more music. So it's a fuel on my ass, really, when I'm promoting, because I'm like, okay, this is for the people who have never heard of me.
That's a good distinction. I like that.
You know, and...
Because usually I'm thinking about the people that do know me, and I'm like, oh, I have to make this drop different than the last.
Right. Well, the way I look at it is
these
like...
expectations that I put on myself.
I have like 7,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Who knows me? And they're not waiting and clamoring at my door for new music. Like, they could care less if I put a song out tomorrow or not. So I want to find that feeling, finishing a song, put it out, and let it find the people who want to know me. And then get them excited about the stuff I'm getting excited about.
I mean, that is such an evolved, detached, and mature way to think about it. I do know a lot of artists, though, who very much struggle with this.
Yeah.
Like, how have you gotten to this place of just, do you not give a shit what people think? Because that's kind of where I had to go to, and it's maybe a little out of anger, and I know it's maybe not, it's not as evolved as yours.
No.
But how have you come to peace with just letting that art go out into the world and letting it be what it's going to be?
I don't think that I don't look at it as an evolved way of thinking.
It is, though. Because most people very much struggle with, like, oh my god, what are people going to think about this?
I think because I still get the same feeling when I put out a song now as I did when I was a kid. It hasn't really changed. The best way I can explain it is my love for my cat. Right? So, I love my cat. Little Banja, right? So, if somebody comes over my house, yeah, I want them to love Banja just like I love her. But if they don't, if they're allergic, or if she hisses at them, or whatever the case may be, and they're like, oh, I don't like her, I don't care. Like, I love her.
I love this fucking
You know
cat,
what
yeah.
I mean? Like, I don't care what you think about my cat. I will go to the ends of the earth for her. It's kind of the same way with
That's
my
a
music.
good connection, yeah.
You know, I'd say, like, I'd relate it to a child, but I don't have a kid, and I know a lot of parents have the problem of they're so worried about what everyone thinks about their kid, but that's the best way that I can explain it when I put out a song is, this is my cat. If you don't like her, that's fine. I would love for you to like her, but I love the fuck out of her.
And what I see there is there's an emphasis on not the person,
Yeah,
but what you love.
right.
And I think that is that's great advice. That's where the focus should be.
Mhm.
Is for when you put out art, just focus on what you love,
Yeah.
not the other person reacting to it.
Yes, absolutely. That goes back to the why.
Because and it goes also back to what's within your control.
Right. That is, I can't
Things
control what
outside of
people
your
think.
control, it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with you.
Right. And of course, I would love people to love me.
Yeah.
And I would love people to love my music. And I've had, being 16 years old and having videos do well on YouTube, like, we see everything, like, you guys should kill yourselves. Like, you guys, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, just, if for no reason, it's like, what did we do? We're just dancing in front of a wall, right? But something that I did triggered you. Or not you, but I'm saying the person
that
viewing.
trolled, yeah.
So obviously I'm doing something.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
I fucking love hate comments.
Do you? You just feed off of it?
I don't say I feed off of it, but I find it hilariously entertaining
Mm-hmm.
to think that I made someone feel something to such a degree they went out of their way
Mm-hmm.
to make a point to say that they hated it for this and this reason, or
Yeah.
that I'm a bad person or whatever.
Right.
I think that is proof that we're doing something right, because I think the role of the artist is to make people think, is to
Right.
be like, okay, we want to evoke a feeling, we want to create a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think what reaction happens is the point. It's that a reaction happened.
Yes.
There needs to be a shock, a jolt, a something to the system in a person. It needs to trigger something. And if we're triggering something, I think we're doing our job. I think that's a pat on the back for us. We made something, someone feels something.
Right. But also...
If everyone was indifferent, that's the opposite of love.
Right. But,
Hate is not the opposite of love.
but I also feel like hopefully they're aware enough to realize, oh, why did I just comment that?
I don't think
that
they are.
Right, but...
Which is why I find it amusing.
But I think that's the goal. Is I think art is supposed to wake people up in their own way.
Yeah.
I think if you're uncomfortable seeing something, why you're uncomfortable? I think that's what everything is. Is when I'm pissed off because I'm in line with 100 other people to get on a roller coaster. Yeah, that's annoying, but why does that make me so mad that I want to leave the park?
That's a really great question, because there's a person standing next to you who's totally fine.
Right, exactly.
Same situation, same everything, different person. So why is it triggering me, but not this other person?
Am I that self-centered,
It's such a good question.
Yeah, it's
such a good
true.
question.
But I don't think the people who are commenting, they're probably not asking themselves that question unless they start to create. Because you really can only know, like when I first saw negative comments as a teenager, I was very hurt, but I had to learn how to deal with that. And that's kind of how I deal with it now is, okay, you're obviously not thinking the way that I would think if I was to comment on this or see this, get triggered, feel something, and then comment. Like, you're not having that filter. So I feel bad for you, because there's going to be a lot of instances in your life where you react without thinking and you feel so entitled to say something about it.
That's Twitter in a nutshell.
Yeah, exactly.
Reddit in a nutshell.
That's why I left Twitter. It was just a toxic place.
Yeah.
And, I just didn't want to see crap all the time.
Well, it's a reflection of the people themselves.
It is.
More than anything.
Yeah. But if it's not waking them up to their own internal struggles, then they're not feeling deep enough.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, just because you have an opinion doesn't mean you have to. Do we all have to tell people what we think all the time? Every day on everything? Because we're here, we're talking, we're talking to each other, and people are going to watch this and listen, but I'll be happy with the cameras on or off to talk about this with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you're not going to change anybody's mind. Just do what you love to do.
They change their mind if
they're going to change their mind if they're
to.
affected deeply enough, and if it's something that happens to them.
People learn through experience, not
right
by us telling them that it's a certain way.
I can tell you, people are not going to do the things that they need to awaken themselves and to help better the people that are in their life that they love. They're not going to do that until they're affected by it. So
see, that's almost why I didn't start this podcast.
Really?
Because I know that truth, that I can't teach anybody anything, but I can show up and share and point towards truths and answers that I have found over time. And if someone wants to look that way, turn their head and start walking their feet towards that and find their own words and their own path towards their own version of that truth, that's how I've been valued by other teachers in the world, is by someone pointing and saying, oh, it's that way. And then I go, oh, let me go check that out. And that's what I decided, okay, am I just sitting here because I want to hear myself say the things that I think are true,
You're enjoying it.
I'm enjoying it because I've been so scared of everything, really.
Yeah.
Like people and situations, and I've been very hidden in my expression of understandings of things that I accumulate through my life. Like I've come to so many amazing, valuable seeds of truth that have bettered my life in so many ways. And I've just kind of kept it to myself. And I've realized that I'm at this point in my life now where I just want to overflow and not to put anything on anyone, not to teach anyone anything or to look like I'm right and I'm like the big honcho now. I really am just here overflowing, and if someone hears something of value that they want to try out for themselves, great. Because that's what's happened to me. Anything that I've ever learned has just been like a little suggestion. Like, oh, I'm just going to put this here. Like, if you want it, go grab it,
Yeah.
But I questioned it for a while because I was like, is this just me wanting to hear myself talk?
Well,
to sound right.
Well, we talked about it quite a bit.
We did. You were a big piece in me actually doing this.
Really?
Yeah. That conversation we had on the phone that one time.
That makes me feel good.
Got me over my hump.
Yeah. Well, this is like a full circle moment.
It is a full circle moment.
But I feel like that's like you sitting down and questioning yourself and everything, but still trying it. I think we need more of that from everybody. But
it's a balance, because you can question yourself to inaction. You can question yourself so much that you end up not doing anything. But at some point,
but you
fuck
chose.
it. You just gotta go.
Right. You chose to go forward.
Yeah.
And you're doing it on your terms. It's very easy to go forward and then, like you said, have a schedule and plan everything out. And it's like, but you're realizing I'm just going to do it when I want to do it. That is foolproof.
Because mentioning the deathbed shit, I heard someone say this once. It's not what you did that you regret. It's what you didn't do. That I didn't follow my dreams. That I didn't fully let myself love and enjoy a person fully because I was scared. Like, it's the stuff you didn't do that you'll regret.
I almost didn't come to the West Coast.
And look at you now.
Look at me now. Here we are.
Thank you for being on.
Thanks for having me.
You're the best, Tyler. Good people. Oh, plug your shit.
T.Y. No, is it? Yeah. Tyler Falcoa. can put it over here or whatever you want to put it.
It'll be all in the links down
yeah,
below.
it's in the links. T.Y. Falcoa on music platforms.
Yeah, he's a great producer and writer and artist and just all around human being. And he posts really, I don't know why I'm talking to you like you're not here. He posts really good, vulnerable, raw. To me, your social media has inspired me to just do the no fucks given, here I am kind of TikToks. Where it's like, because you're very matter of fact.
Yeah.
You don't go, hey guys, welcome to my channel. New release pre-save in the bio. Like, you're just fucking real.
Yeah.
And so you've really inspired me to like be, just be
I appreciate
in my content. So
that makes me
artist
happy.
inspiration 101,
That's
his page.
awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Bye, people.
Bye.